Devlin, Untamed.
Welcome to the podcast, people. Martin Devlin, Lachlan War. Our show is called iOS. It's only sport, live every day on the platform 1 till 4. The only true independent daily sports show in this country. Today, it's coming home. Football's coming. You can't ignore the story, can you? The Poms make it to back-to-back European Championship finals with another last-gasp dramatic winner. Andy Buckley all over that for us. The All Blacks side to face England. Just one change. And not the most major sports story in the country, I don't believe. Wow, the All Blacks been known? Yeah, just one change. Cricket, Simon Doull all over Jimmy Anderson's last test appearance for England at Lords. He did take a wicket. Plus, for the first time, a New Zealand coach is actually honest about how poor the White Ferns are. Remarkable. Dooley talking to White Ferns batting coach Craig McMillan, and he makes quite an astonishing admission. We also spoke to Leighton Huddleton today, who's the New Zealand men's under-17 coach. What a fantastic performance at the World Champs for that team. Cameron George was on the show, the WAS CEO. Vegas trip, all penned in. Are there going to be travel packages out of New Zealand here? Because I haven't seen those. So he answers that for us. Jeff Parks was on the program. Costo's Corner. We played a brand new game called Glass Half Full. But begin the show the same way every single day. Tablets in hand. I say, gather my flock, and it's time for a sermon. It's coming home. Let's go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
It's coming home. It is coming home. Football is coming home. England expects. The Poms were in the European Championship final again after losing 3 years ago on this very day, as a matter of fact, in the 2020 final, which was played a year later because of COVID. This England side will go one better and win the whole thing versus Spain on Monday morning New Zealand time. Why? Destiny. I believe in destiny. They have had every piece of good luck, good fortune, bounce of the ball, and refereeing decisions. It's got to mean something. They bumbled their way through the group stage. Thoroughly unconvincing. 2 goals in 3 games, playing boring, negative, awful football, booed by their own fans. Round of 16 versus Slovakia, 1-0 down till the 96th minute. There was seconds left, and Jude Bellingham equalised with a spectacular overhead kick to save their butts. Quarterfinals, they conceded in the 82nd minute to the Swiss. They equalised in the 84th. They won it on penalties. Today versus the Dutch, they won it in the 91st minute. That's 3 in a row. All 3 knockout games. Does the luck run out? Well, we're going to find out Monday, I suppose. But to be fair to England, they were the better team today. Will they beat Spain? I think they've got every chance. Spain are a team that let the opposition play. So England go in at least even Stevens. But back to the fickle nature of sport and being a top-flight coach. There's a real parallel here with Gareth Southgate and our own Ian Foster. Southgate is just 1 win away now from a knighthood. Same as Foster was. If the All Blacks had beaten South Africa last year in France, it would be Sir Ian. 3 games ago, though, the England fans were booing him and pelting him with polystyrene cups after a turgid 0-0 bore in the last group game versus Denmark. Now he's Sir Gareth, the outhouse to the penthouse. How fickle it is. English football, who'd want to be the coach, takes a very thick skin to even contemplate doing that job.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The platform.
What?
Yeah, probably the biggest, well, I guess it's the biggest news. Quite underwhelming news. It's probably what we expected in many ways, but it's kind of boring. The All Blacks team's been named. One change has been made. It's that Finlay Christie starting at halfback. This, of course, one change different from that team that they had last week against England in Dunedin. And this is the full 15. Ethan de Groot, Cody Taylor, Tyrell Lomax, Scott Barrett, Patrick Tuipulotu, Samapeni Fino, Dalton Papali'i, Ardie Savea. That's the forward pack. The backs, Finlay Christie, as I say, coming on to the run-on side. Damien McKenzie, Mark Talea, Geordie Barrett, Rico Ioane, Severie, Stephen Perifetta. The bench or impact. Just call it bench, please.
Call it the bench, please.
Asafa Moore, Ofatonga Fasi, Fletcher Newell, Tupuvai, Luke Jacobson, Cortez Ratama set to make his All Blacks debut, Anton Leonard-Brown, Bowden Barrett. Now, out of 46 possible selections by Scott Robertson across these first 2 tests, 1 is a potential debutant. He's actually yet to debut. You never know. Cortez Ratama might not actually get on the field on Saturday. What does that tell you? this new era, this new dawn for the All Blacks, being rusty, gathering momentum, forming this new unit in this new World Cup cycle. Well, that's all looking quite damn familiar from the last 4 years, isn't it?
Oh, I expected exactly this. I only expected the one change, and that the same players that played last week will be better this week for having been an extra week in camp.
I don't know why. I'm
reading from the narrative sheet here. That's what I'm reading. No, look, he had to. He was never going to make any mass changes, was he?
Well, no, he wasn't, but I just feel underwhelmed. Maybe I just wanted some excitement from the All Blacks because they really struggled to give us some of that. What to go to next? Probably the Euros. That's probably the next big story, isn't it? England through to the European Championships final. They will take on Spain in the decider on Monday morning, thanks to a 2-1 victory over the Netherlands in the semi-finals, the second of two this morning. Xavi Simons scoring the opening goal for the Netherlands, a belter of a goal in the 7th minute. Then Harry Kane converted a penalty for England in the 18th minute. Then 90 minutes as stoppage time started, Ollie Watkins scoring a brilliant goal, a real traditional centre-forward goal, I think, for England, winning it 2-1 in the end. That penalty, by the way, that they got in the first half, I didn't think it was a penalty. I thought it was really hard.
Dodgy, yeah. It was harsh.
Really hard. A decider will be in Berlin on Monday morning. I've got the win probability meter. Now, it does specify within 90 minutes. What do you think it is, Martin?
I would say Spain 55, England 45.
Well, no, because it brings draw into it because it's within 90 minutes. So it's got a percentage of Spain going to extra time or England.
In that case, I would say Spain 2%, England 1%, the draw 97%.
No, the draw's only 33%. Spain 40%, England 27%. So it's more likely to go to extra time than England win it in 90 minutes, according to Google. I mean, you know, it's Google. The nerds over there at Google. Sticking with football, the United States have sacked head coach Greg Berhalter following their Copa America group stage exit. Yeah, there's been a fair bit of uproar over in the US about this. I mean, podcasts, American sports podcasts that I usually listen to, actually talking about it when they never talk about, as they call it, soccer any other time.
Shot goal, soccer.
Wimbledon, a couple of results overnight. Novak Djokovic didn't even need to take the court to advance to the semi-finals. Alex de Minaur pulling out through injury, the Australian. So Djokovic is through to the semis via walkover. In the other quarter-final, Lorenzo Musetti, the Italian 25th seed, beating Taylor Fritz, the American 13th seed, winning in 5 sets. As I say, it was actually 2-1 to Musetti. Yeah, Taylor Fritz forcing a deciding 5th set. And I kind of like that because all these storylines were around Taylor Fritz and his missus when he was at the Australian Open. She was taking all the headlines, being the socialite, pretending she knew anything about sport. That just kind of annoyed me. But that's because I'm a cynical, nasty person. Elena Rybakina beating Elena Svitolina in the women's quarterfinals in straight sets. Barbara Krejcikova beating Elena Ostapenko in the other quarterfinals. So in terms of the semis that have been set up, Donna Vekic, who beat our own Lulu Sun, takes on Jasmine Paolini, the other semi-final between Krejcikova and Rybakina. In the men's singles, the semis are as follows: Daniil Medvedev and Carlos Alcaraz, and then it's Musetti up against Novak Djokovic. Some pretty good news for the Wellington Phoenix women's side. They've signed a goalkeeper who's played in the Champions League, the Women's Champions League, that is Portuguese goalkeeper Carolina Villau. I hope I pronounced that right, Villau. They've signed her from Benfica, so that's the addition of a really good goalkeeper for the Phoenix women's side. Apart from that, oh yes, Josh Ioane, actually. One Test All Black Josh Ioane, played for Highlanders last couple of years. He's been with the Chiefs. He's given up an international recall, or the hopes of taking up a contract overseas. He's now, I always forget how to pronounce this. It's the Irish club Connacht. Is that how you pronounce it, Martin? Do you know? Connacht. Connacht. He signed with them for next year's United Rugby Championship. Casting an eye over the herald here. Not a huge amount going on, as I say. So, Martin, that's what's making news.
Devlin. The platform.
England going blah, blah, ya, ga. And why not? Pommy fans know how to celebrate sport, don't they? They absolutely just go to levels that we don't do in this country. They they just have so much fun, don't they, when their team's winning. It wasn't that long ago that they were showering the coach, Gareth Southgate, with paper cups, abuse and booze. That was after the 0-0 bore against Denmark in the group stage. Well, 3 games later, they are back in the European Championship final to face Spain. Andy Buckley. Andy, it's coming home, mate. She's coming home.
Indeed. At long last, yeah. I've lived long enough to see it, and you have.
Look, England must be going absolutely berserk at the moment.
Oh, unbelievable. Really, I mean, fantastic first half, and then faded in the second half, needed energy, needed some ideas, and 2 substitutions by the manager, Gareth Southgate, and up pops Ollie Watkins with the winning goal right at the death. The other substitute, Cole Palmer, with the assist. Watkins with the winner. He's the hero. 10 years ago, believe this, 10 years ago, he was on loan at Weston-super-Mare, a Conference South club from Exeter City. So it just shows what happens if you can chase your dream and believe in it. And now he's the hero of England and, is celebrating a famous victory.
Is that genius from Gareth Southgate? Is that good luck, or is that just by chance? What?
Bit of both, really, I think. Everybody's trying to dissect what's happened. Can't quite believe it. We're all stunned. We're all shocked. But I will say in Southgate's defence that as a player for England and as a manager for England, including under-21s and the full national side, he's been there and done it and seen more than any other England player or manager. So he's had a tough ride in this tournament, but he's got England over the line, and by hook or by crook, so many near misses. I mean, we were seconds from going out against Slovakia, needed penalties to beat Switzerland, behind against the Netherlands, and now England are going to Berlin on Sunday. Unbelievable.
Look, and, I keep saying, you need luck in this tournament. You need breaks. You need things to go your way. And look, you and me are old enough to know. You track back through tournaments. Portugal were really fortunate in 2016. The Greeks perhaps had, 2 strikes on goal and ended up winning it in 2004. Argentina, even the last World Cup, Andy, they won 4 games out of 7. That's all. And yet they won the tournament. So, call it momentum, call it a fate, call it destiny, call it whatever you like. But this is all part of the jigsaw, isn't it?
It is. You do need that luck. And if you go back to 1966, England needed a bit of luck, really. What was the ball over the line in the final against West Germany? England didn't start that tournament on the home turf that well either. They had a lot of luck tonight, certainly with the England first goal, the penalty from Harry Kane. Massive debate, and even the most die-hard Englishman would turn around and say that was not a penalty. Reckless challenge by Dumfries, according to Ian Wright, the former Arsenal striker, a pundit on English television. He's been absolutely slaughtered on social media by saying it was reckless by the Dutch defender and it was a penalty, whereas Gary Neville, the former Manchester United defender, described the decision as a disgrace. He said it was absolutely appalling that a penalty was given. I don't think it was a penalty. I think Kane kicked Dumfries. I don't know what you think about it, but that goes back to luck. Somehow, from somewhere, England got the break there, and now they're in the first major final overseas. Of course, they got to the final 3 years ago in the delayed COVID Euros. The final was played at Wembley when they lost to Italy. And then 1966, we're talking about men's football, of course, here. England's women have won the Euros in the last few years, but England's men's team won in 1966. So it's going to be a crazy few days in England, all over the world, actually. As you well know, in New Zealand, there are Englishmen in places that you wouldn't think you'd find them. But it's going to be a carnival atmosphere, and it's going to be a classic final against Spain in Berlin.
Freelance broadcast out of England, Andy Buckley is with us, good mate of the show. And look, I just want to unpick a couple of things here. As far as the penalty goes, I'm really confused about things like this. Like, to me, it looked as though it was the follow-through, and I don't know how you can award a penalty on a follow-through. Then, you can argue, well, he had his studs up. Look, if that wasn't given as a penalty, I don't think anyone's complaining that it's not a penalty, but it is given as a penalty, and, Harry Kane slots it under enormous pressure, and so, that does change the game. Amazing also when England decide to start to play, when Gareth Southgate actually gives some licence, instead of being cagey and sitting back, you've got brilliant young attacking players, let them have a go. And that's what Watkins did. You can't score unless you shoot. Have a crack, man.
Yeah, no, and really, he just on that second point that you made there, he highlighted what Harry Kane hasn't been doing, because Kane, Watkins, I remember him scoring a couple of goals, or he scored 1 goal, for Villa against Arsenal. That was a massive turning point in the title challenge at the Emirates Stadium in April, and Villa won at Arsenal. He scored a fantastic goal, and then he scored another brilliant goal against the Netherlands to take England through. Yeah, and he just thought, I'm going to be greedy, I'm going to have a go, and guess what? It went through the defender's legs, and the goalkeeper couldn't read it, couldn't get to it, and suddenly he was the hero. But going back to your point about the challenge, I just thought that Harry Kane was quite cute, really, the way he stayed down, because if it had got up, I think the game would have carried on, and there would have been no suggestion of it. And then as a delay, from nowhere, there's this VAR call that says, oh, hang on a minute, this might be a penalty. But no, I just think the game's ridiculous when you get a penalty for that. It was just the follow-through, and you can't blame the Dutch defender. They will be absolutely seething. Quite rightly so as well, I can understand it. But you have to take the breaks. England have had a lot of bad breaks, if you think about it, over the years.
All Blacks announced today, no surprises, just one change. This is what we expected. Not a great performance, not a really convincing performance first up against England. So Scott Robertson was always going to give these guys a chance to rectify that. Another week in camp, we will get better. Those were the messages after the first test. So Christie starts, Cortez Ratema, congratulations to that young man. He will come off the bench. You'd assume in about the 55th minute. Jamie Wall was at the presser. No great surprise at all. And I'm glad, Jamie, there is no surprise. Christie starts, which means he plays for about 55 minutes. Cortez comes off the bench. Congratulations to that young man. Was he present at the press conference? Did you get to see him?
Finlay was, yes.
Okay.
I wasn't surprised that Cortez wasn't. They don't usually put debutants up for media until after the game.
Okay.
But Finlay was. We also had Terrell Lomax and, of course, Scott Robertson giving his thoughts on the team. And, yeah, it was very much a case of, well, you know, we're into kind of phase 2 of what we're trying to do. We learned a lot from last week and how we're going to implement it, and a bit of an admission that maybe they went into last week just trying to do a bit too much in that first half. But the pleasing thing for me looking back on it was that, well, yeah, they did try and do too much in that first half, and England kind of figured them out, but they went in, had a talk at half time and came out and played a completely different way. And I don't think that's something that a team over the last 4 years, perhaps even 8 years, an All Black team would have actually done, because they would have been more confident in their own baked-in abilities rather than actually accepting the fact that, hey, these guys are pretty good and they're shutting us down. They're shutting down everything we're trying to do outside of like first five. And so we're going to kick the ball as much as we possibly can. I think the All Blacks kicked the ball 23 times in the second half. If it wasn't a box kick, it was a low, flat rugby league style kick that's trying to find land instead of hand, which for the most part worked really well, I have to say. I think up until, you know, Mackenzie's blooper at the end, the All Blacks had managed the last 10 minutes or so of that game perfectly. In terms of keeping England stuck in their half, forcing them to play out. They clearly had a few deficiencies in how far out they could attack. Don't get me wrong, they scored a really nice try in the second half, but that was that started off a really poor read of the All Black defence. So as long as they just defended right, I have to say I was quite impressed with Christie's performance when he came on, because he played his role perfectly, which was to, he was a bit shaky at the start, but by the end, his tactical kicking, when he was putting it down there and putting Furbank under some real pressure, worked really well. So I liked the fact that they were able to switch it up there and ask Scott Robertson, is that what we're going to see out of this All Black team going forward, that you've got these kind of cards up your sleeves that you can just pull out and become a completely different team.
It's called winning, Jamie. I mean, that's what Test match rugby is about. It's about winning.
And I think, and it goes back to what I said at the start, that I don't think that's what the All Blacks had over the last, in Foster's era and probably the last 4 years of Hanson's era, because they'd been so convinced that their way was the best way to do things. Is what cost them. It cost them against England, Ireland,
mate. And it will cost them against England in 2019. Absolutely. Because if you remember, our best number 7, who was Sam Cane at the time, was actually benched for that semi-final, didn't come on till half-time. And actually, remember, and I was sitting at that press conference, they made about 6 or 7 changes, and none of us said a bloody word because we'd just beaten Ireland. We'd just beaten South Africa, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, no, you guys know what you're doing. But no, it didn't. The other question obviously is, and I'm sure that, it was a race at the press conference, because if I'd been there, I would have been first up with the hand up to ask it, is that thing called rush defence. Have we thought about that over the last week or so? Who asked that question?
Oh, Andrew Saville asked it, of
there you
course.
go. Of course, yes. Because the television, the television people at the press conference are just Knob City, Arizona people.
The only thing quicker he was to asking that question was getting to the sausage rolls on the side of the.
Well, good to see that Sam hasn't changed, mate. So, what was the response to
changed.
it? What was the response?
And I don't feel bad saying.
No, I don't say. Look, he's good on, mate. Yeah, mate. And I'll tell you what, if it wasn't him getting the sausage rolls, it's Wall and Devlin running a close second. So, yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah, you're right. That was a big topic. It was talked about. Upon analysing the game, I thought that it was really the performances of Underhill and Itoje, and it's quite interesting because I think what England had done, had pulled a bit of a switcheroo on the All Blacks, whereas they would have analysed their game and said, like, okay, well, the one guy who's rushing out of the line to sort of make that first hit on McKenzie or whoever, it's going to be Itoje. Like, he's going to be the one, and Underhill's going to be the one coming in to snaffle the ball like an open side flanker should. What actually happened in that game was it was Underhill was the one coming out to deck guys and tackle bolt upright and you know, like force them back onto their back, whereas Itoje was the one coming over and winning those penalties. So I think the All Blacks got kind of caught on the hop a little bit by that little tactical change that Borthwick made, which was very smart, I thought. And then they were able to nullify it, like I said, in the second half. And I think it's a sign of like two coaches playing a very intense game of chess there and figuring it out.
The Tight Five.
Football's coming home. Convince me that it's not Lachlan and that England won't beat Spain on Monday. Was that a penalty? Poms versus Dutchies today. Because, of course, the Dutch coach Kerman's saying there's no way in hell that's a penalty. And the English are saying, oh, yes, it is. However, I believe that if you reverse the script and England had lost that game, well, then everyone would be screaming in England saying that was never a penalty, and the Dutch were saying, hell yes, it was. That's how silly VAR is. The All Blacks side to face England in the second test. Are you still interested in Wimbledon now that Lulu's out? I just don't really have that much interest in it. Why is that? Bring back the Redskins logo. How about this? So a few years ago, just enveloped in a tsunami of wokeness, the Washington, now called Commanders, ditched the Redskins logo that they'd had since the 1930s. Now, one of their more renowned quarterbacks from recent years, RG3, Robert Griffin III. I know you're sneering at it, mate, but we've had very little success, and he was there. He actually got us through to the bloody playoffs.
He's as renowned as Carson Wentz for the Eagles.
Just back it off. Anyway, RG3 is leading a campaign to have the discussion as to whether or not this should be brought back. Are we mature enough even to have that discussion? Let's talk about football's coming home, though. This is an English side that has got better throughout the tournament. You can't tell me that they didn't deserve to win that game because I actually thought they played better than the Dutch. The Dutch scored an absolute screamer of a goal. We're going to talk about the penalty separately. England equalised. Cracking goal from Ollie Watkins. And Gareth Southgate, the one thing he has done, apart from, produce the most boring football ever at a tournament in most recent history, is he's made good substitutions at the right time. Now, whether that's good luck, good management, let's give him the credit to say it's good management. He brought on Ollie Watkins, he brought on Cole Palmer. Those two guys combined for a brilliant goal to win it in the 91st minute.
Yeah, to be fair, Cole Palmer's been one of the guys he's brought off the bench in the last 3 or 4 games at a specific time in the second half.
And he's one of the best players in the Premier League. And he should be starting. I know it's not that big a decision to make, okay? Because everyone is telling Gareth he should be doing.
For the most part, stuck with an 11 that has been a bit underwhelming. The thing is, if you then have these guys off the bench starting, do they become underwhelming? Is it more a representation of the game plan of the players? No, but the Ollie Watkins substitution was a brilliant one. When he made it, people are like, why are you bringing off your best goal scorer?
Because Harry Kane doesn't do anything except sit on a deck chair, mate.
Well, I tell you what he does. He scores goals because he's got the most for England ever.
Yeah, true.
And Ollie Watkins doesn't for England. But no, that turned out to be a great substitution. It was a brilliant goal. Look, I thought they were the best team today. It's the first time during these European Championships that I've comfortably felt like England were the better side, and I'm happy with them winning.
They played football. They actually played football.
Well, they did. Okay, they did in the first half. Once the Netherlands, because we said on the show yesterday that the worst thing that can happen to England is that the Netherlands get a goal really early on and England are forced to actually play and attack because they just don't really like doing it. Well, they started doing it and they looked all right.
Guess what? Yeah.
Now, in the second half, though, they picked it back and it felt as though, in parts, they were happy to go to extra time and they thought that's what was going to happen, and then Ollie Watkins scored the goal. So, no, it's a great result. I tell you what, I'm stoked for Southgate as well because I was one of the many who were having a crack saying you need to be a bit more, I don't know, exciting and what's the word? Incisive. That's a word, isn't it? Yeah, incisive.
That's a word.
With your tactics and whatnot, pushing forward. Making
well,
runs,
mate,
playing
use
good
your
football.
players, mate. You got a great squad
so much
of players.
attacking talent. But now I'm stoked because everyone's bagging him.
Well, they
and
were
he's
throwing cups at him 3 games ago and booing him from the sidelines, and now he's Sir Gareth.
At the end of the day, he's not Sir Gareth yet. Steady on. But at the end of the day, 4 straight tournaments that they've gone to the quarterfinals or better. 2 of those they've made a final. One of them they made the semis, where no one expected them to even get probably out of the group
World
stage
Cup in 2018. That's right.
And then in the 2022 FIFA World Cup, they lost to a very good French side in the quarters. So look, they've done very well under him.
Was it a penalty? Okay, so look, and this is one of those ones where VAR gets involved, and it's just so frustrating because, okay, Harry Kane shoots. The Dutch defender has a raised leg. Now, I've seen so many different angles, and there's more angles than Pythagoras on it. He had studs up, but his studs weren't actually facing the leg. They were kind of twisted to the side.
Well, his leg, it wasn't really like his boot was really high, but
what
studs
happens
were up.
is Kane hits the ball, and then his follow-through hits the guy's leg. So he's getting penalised, the defender, after the guy's made connection with the ball. Now, I always thought the rule was if you made connection before he has a shot, that's a penalty. Would that have been a foul outside of the box?
So this is the thing. So it would have been a foul outside of the box. Well, it was, but the thing is, what kind of annoys me is that when you're awarding a penalty, you are, indirectly admitting that the foul caused on the attacking player took away a goal-scoring opportunity from him. But it didn't do
because
that, he had already kicked the. He'd already.
I'll tell you what.
No, let me finish. And he'd already kicked the ball. So from that perspective, I don't know if that's what the rule is, but from that perspective, it shouldn't be a penalty.
Well, Kane goes down like he's been shot.
Of course,
he's
and then
rolling
he's
around.
fine as soon as the
and then
penalty's awarded. That's what they all do.
And that's again it's a really distasteful side of the game, and this is what's crept into the NRL as well. That as soon as a guy punts the ball and a defender goes.
Oh look, it's been this way for decades. There's no point talking about it getting annoyed because it's been around for so long. But it's the case in the NBA. It's become big in that. But it's like by the rules, it probably is a penalty. But I don't think it should be a penalty. I think in that situation, I've only ever seen this happen once, where there's a foul in the box, but it's not strong enough from the referee's perspective that he gives the attacking team.
I'll go back a couple of years, and you'll know this, mate, because it cost Liverpool vital points. I think it was against Everton. I think it was it Virgil van Dijk? That's when he did his knee. When the goalkeeper came out and fouled him in the box and there was no penalty awarded and he gets carried off. It was a very similar kind of incident. Premier League match 2 or 3 years ago.
I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah. But it's a similar thing. But that wasn't awarded then, right? And then afterwards, when you look at it,
no, because Van Dijk was offside, and the rule was that because he was offside, it's not deemed to be a foul. It kind of renders the rest of the play useless, if you will. That was a different situation, but it pretty much ruined our season. But it was the one I'm thinking of was a couple of years earlier at Old Trafford. We played you guys, and you guys fouled us in the box, but we got a free kick outside the box for some reason because it wasn't strong enough to be given a penalty. So why can't that be applied in this situation?
I don't know. I think the Dutch have got every reason to gripe about it. All Black side to face England's second test. We've spoken briefly about this. Not much to say really. Same side. Cortez Ruttimer will come off the bench. And that's really what the All Black coach does. That's what every All Black coach does. First test of the season. Unless we get hammered, which never really happens because we always set up the first test to, we never play the Yappies, for example, in our first test. I just didn't expect to see any changes. Unless there were injuries, this is exactly what I expected.
Yeah. Which I wouldn't have minded seeing something else.
Mate, when we go and play Fiji and San Diego,
I know that he'll rotate the team, but I tell you what, it's just another reminder that the whole team underwhelms me. I'm not excited by. It's always the loose forward trio as well. Artie Savi is an undersized number 8. I'd rather see him play open side because that's his best position. I'm not excited at all by Dalton Papali'i. I think he debuted for the All Blacks. I'm pretty sure. I'll check this in a sec. In 2018.
Yeah, I'm looking for him to have a really big game.
He only had a stretch of 3 or 4 tests at the end of 2022 when Sam Cane was injured where he looked good. But he clearly wasn't good enough last year to usurp Kane again. And I just think he's been really underwhelming in the black jumper for a long time.
Ladies, Anton Leonard-Brown in the number 7 jersey.
Well, I'm just waiting for him to do something.
Yeah,
it's got to get to a point where you can't sit there and say, let's give him an extended run and see what he can do. He's had 6 years to do something in a black jumper, and he hasn't done anything. And people applaud him like he's a spectacular talent. I don't know if he is. I don't know. I don't think he's technically as good at the breakdown as Sam Kane. I don't think he's as good as Tom Christie at the breakdown. I think Sam
Kane would be playing 7 if he was fit.
I don't think he's as good as Luke Jacobson at the breakdown. I think he's athletic. But I don't know. Like, there's elements of the team that underwhelm me. And actually, it's always the loose 4 trio at the moment. In the last sort of 4 or 5 years, it's always the loose 4 trio.
Are you still interested in Wimbledon?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Especially the men's. The women's tennis is always really hard to get behind because there's always so many upsets. You won't have your Coco Gauffs or your Arena Sabalenka. Yeah,
there's no real standout player at the moment, is there?
It's not in the women's one. I mean, there's Lena Rybakina who's won the...
Yeah, but you don't have a Steffi and you don't have a Serena and you just... Because
there's all these different winners all the time.
Yeah. But now that Lulu's gone, I didn't even look at the women's side of the draw today. And I looked at the men's and I saw that Djokovic had another walkover because De Minaur couldn't play or whatever.
There's more exciting storylines around the men's one. There's a bigger storyline because you've still got this Alcaraz, or Sinner's now out of it. But Medvedev is probably part of this 3 of the future thing for the men. But you've still got these young kids trying to take down Novak. And Alcaraz beat him at the Wimbledon final last year.
Yes, he did. 2 years ago, I think, was it?
No, it was last year.
Was it last year?
2 years ago was when Djokovic beat Kyrgios.
All right. Yes, you're right. All right, bring back the Redskins logo. I'm loving this because I've been a Redskins fan since I was about 8 years old. Why, I don't know. Family friends brought back a couple of shirts from the United States. One was a New York Jets shirt, and that was my brother's size, so he's been cursed with that his whole life, and I got the Washington Redskins, so I've been a Redskins fan. I still call them the Redskins. All my kit is Redskins. Lachlan, I've flown over there 3 times to go to games, and 90% of the crowd on each of those occasions at FedEx Field is wearing Redskins gear. Not Commanders gear, not Washington football team gear, Redskins gear. Yeah. And look, if the name was so grossly offensive to the local Indian population that,
Native American
population, that they made a compelling case and said, listen, this is just because what it actually is apparently the scalping of the Native American Indian. They call it a redskin. I mean, when they scalp the white guys, I don't know what they called it, but anyway, that's apparently what it is. So that's very grossly offensive in every actual way. But every time I've gone there, and this was the old owner, Dan Schneider, used to pay some of the local people to dress up in full Indian kit with the headdress and everything else out the front. I mean, it's just pretty distasteful. Or was it? Or were they doing it because they wanted to do it and they were quite happy?
No, they're getting paid to do it.
So now you've actually got a groundswell of the local Native American Indians from there saying, no, we actually like it. We like the logo. We like the name because it recognises our culture. It's not a great part of it, but we actually recognise it. And now you're starting to get a little bit of groundswell because it was lost in that tsunami of wokeness, wasn't it? Where the Cleveland Indians had to lose their logo.
Change their name. They talk about the Blackhawks had to do it, even though their name was like a weapon, same way that Cleveland Cavaliers are a sword. A Cavalier's it's like a swordsman.
Yeah, but the Cleveland Indians were always known as the tribe, right? Yeah. And so the Redskins got caught up in this, and because the owner was so distasteful and he was filming the cheerleaders and all of that kind of stuff, it just seemed to get it snowballed itself.
Yeah, wouldn't that be the same as the Chiefs being called the Chiefs though? Because that's they're called the Chiefs as in like a Māori war chief, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I think that it's the same as the Warriors. That there was massive consultation that went on before those names were given. I just assume and presume that that's the case.
Chief is not really a derogatory term, and from some perspective, Redskin is a derogatory term. This
thing, it's not just those particular teams. The Atlanta Braves and the tomahawk chop thing that goes on. The Kansas City Chiefs playing at Arrowhead. There's so many of these things. The Florida Seminoles where they get out there and they, in full Indian headdress and whack the pole. Yeah. But I'm liking the fact that the discussion is actually out there, and because I do think it deserves to be talked about in reasonable terms without being screamed down about it.
Yeah, what you got to do is you've got to actually consult with where the team is in the state that it's in terms of the US, consult with the local representation to do with that, in this case, the indigenous group, the Native Americans. And if you sort of get a vote or you get a majority within that organisation or those people or that group or however you want to describe it, and they're happy with it, they're fine with it, well, then there's your answer.
Okay.
See, my biggest issue is, and I've seen a lot of videos on the internet about this, not just within sports, but you'll see like people wear like people going along to, I don't know, like a Sevens, like what the Wellington Sevens was when you dress up as things, and some might go along as like a Mexican guy with a sombrero. Yeah, or like, wasn't it one of your sons win as Swiss cheese to
the football ferns playing Switzerland, remember?
And then there's a bunch of these,
No, that was insulting Māori culture when the Spanish team did the haka
that's right. But
that was a beat up from the media as well.
Yeah, you'll have a whole lot of people, and they're typically my age, and a lot of them are white-skinned who will, who have a crack at you and stand in front of you and say, you can't do this is offensive. And it's like, well, I don't mean to be, your opinion on this doesn't matter. It's the opinion of the group that it's supposedly offending. So let's ask them, what do they think? If they're fine with it, and we're not being a bunch of dickheads, actually abusing that culture, assuming we're just having a bit of fun and enjoying part of it, what's the issue?
Is dressing up in lederhosen with a klaxon and going along to support the Germans, is that offensive?
Apparently.
Is dressing up with a Swiss cheese on your head when Switzerland playing, is that offensive?
Well, yeah.
No, it's not. It's just people having fun is what it is.
Yeah.
And the parallel here in New Zealand, as this texter points out, the Crusaders lost the sword. Total wokeness. I totally agree with you.
The terrible thing with that was that they tried to cast the franchise and the naming of it to do with the slaughter of Muslims, which wasn't the case.
It's just
that was the worst
so
thing about that.
Manifestly wrong. And because of what was going on in the mood of the country at the time and the government we had at the time, that the Crusaders bowed to all of this.
But again, what was the consultation with the Muslim community in New Zealand that went on then? Did a lot of them actually, was the majority that they wanted to be changed? I don't think any of them really cared.
Is there a single... I think they had bigger things to worry about and think about and actually be very sad about.
I honestly think they would sat there and said, the name of a sports team doesn't bother us.
Well, and when the Crusaders were named, did anyone actually connect that with the Crusades that happened back in 1066, whenever the hell it was? I didn't. No. I just saw a whole lot of guys in swords with a white cross running around with a thing, and I just sort of looked kind of cool on a horse.
Yeah.
That's because we're morons.
What about the Hurricanes have been called the Hurricanes? Your Hurricanes have ravaged and destroyed towns, in New Zealand, very much so in Australia, very much so in the US. That's offensive.
It is. You're right. Greg Martin, every single Thursday on the show, the former Wallaby fullback and Triple M breakfast host, talking about Brisbane. Just been awash with drunken poms celebrating that Dutch win in the European Championships. The Wallabies' first up effort. They're pretty happy, Aussie rugby fans. And looking forward to the second test against Wales. His Brisbane Broncos on the slide. Origin coming. Lots to talk about with Marto. Joe Schmidt starts off with a win against Wales. I know that.
What a win it was.
It was.
What a win.
And if you had to handpick the strongest opponent to face the Wallabies, I would have handpicked that lot. And after this, you get Georgia. There's every chance he goes 3-0 before the Bledisloe.
Thank you, and we'll keep that. And you know what momentum's like in sport. We'll keep on rolling straight through the Bledisloe. Yeah, how many are we playing this year? 2 or 3? 2. 2 zip will beat you this year. That's the sort of attitude Australian rugby fans have got at the moment.
Were you happy, though, with the way you played and happy with the win?
Bloody oath. Mate, what last time out, we got beaten, 40-6, or whatever it was. It's like a 30-point turnaround. And I know they only had 3 players from that game, Wales, but we're rejoicing here in Australia because no one knows that. We've kept that really quiet, that it's not the same Wales team we played at the World Cup. It's described as the resurgence of Australian rugby. Go, boys.
Oh, gosh.
What about you blokes? What about you blokes? 16-15. Is that it?
Yeah, okay. No, it wasn't, that convincing. And I think, probably taken a little bit by surprise, the old Razor, to be fair. Look, he's had a lot of time to think about this, but I think that, what a lot of people aren't perhaps considering is that when you coach Super Rugby, you get another go next week. And because it's a round robin before the finals, you might actually have an average performance and it's okay. Test match rugby, especially when you're the All Blacks coach, mate, it's like being Gareth Southgate, the England coach. There is no room for anything else other than a win and a great performance. And I think he learned that pretty quick.
Oh, yeah, God, yeah. But can you imagine how much noise would have been if they lost that by 2 points? If there was that penalty late, and next thing you know, you've gone down to England. What? We have some. Where are you guys? 4th in the world now?
Oh, stop it, mate. We're 2nd in the world. But this is the thing.
Are you sure?
The Saffers in the mix, mate. Talking like this is the World Cup final. Having said that rugby test was, I think, a couple of shades above every other one over the weekend, those 2 teams.
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, the one in South Africa.
Oh, yeah.
Mate, South Africa Island.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was proper rugby. Whereas, how did the South Africans do it? They didn't come out with any rust. Whereas, do you think both the All Blacks and the Wallabies, yes, very rusty. You guys will get better this weekend. We may not. But we had to win it. Let's take the Wallabies. We had to win that.
Yeah.
You guys had to win it, and we did enough. And that's what it's about. You do what you got, whatever you got to do, you do it, and to make your fans happy. So we're away. First game's out of the way. This weekend will tell us a lot more.
Knock, knock.
Oh, no. Who's there?
Rush defence.
Rush defence. Interesting. Is that what's been? That's what's been talking about? How England has got you worked out.
You meant to say rush defence.
Right,
who?
sorry. Rush defence. Who?
Wow. Okay, we haven't seen it apart from every single friggin' test against the All Blacks for the last 8 years. Can't somebody figure the bastard out? Sorry, that was my reaction, mate, because honestly, it was kind of like the All Black coaches are going, oh my God, they did rush defence on us. Yes, that's what everyone does. Yeah. It's happened since 2017, you know.
All the rugby league coaches that are in the game now, and that's what they do. Rush defence. But honestly, so they try that again this week, you guys will score 7 tries.
Well, I just hope. Okay, Damien kicked once and chipped over. There's got to be a way of actually beating this, because you call it rush, offside, outside, in, whatever it is. There is, if you're crimping in like that and your winger is 20 metres inside, there is space somewhere. You just got to find it, right?
That's exactly right, mate. That's the whole game of rugby league. Well, actually, the whole game of rugby. That's what it's supposed to be about. Having one person with the ball in their hands in the end and no one in front of it. So it'll be worked out. There'll be a lot of more crossfield kicks, etc. Joe Smith loves a crossfield kick too. I love what he's bringing. Where the Australians will do a lot more of it as well.
Okay, so listen to this. This is so good. I'm sorry. When Robbie Deans started as the Wallaby coach, what happened in the first test he played against the All Blacks?
Oh, I can't remember. 2012?
He had a win. When Dave Rennie started, he had a win. Joe Schmitz had a win. So, you're all la-la-rah-rah right now. But what happens?
We're on.
What happens when all of a sudden you become the Wallabies again?
Well, we might not, because Joe Smith they seem to be a happy camp. Last year, under Eddie Jones, and all the nonsense that he brought to Australia, it was terrible. He might have set the code back 5 or 6 years. None of the camp was happy. Apparently, I suppose that's what happens when you win occasionally, but they're a really happy camp. I suppose all it takes is a loss, and then everyone hates Joe Smith. We'll see how that pans out. But right at the moment, rugby's okay again until Saturday night.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Simon Doull joins us every Thursday on It's Only Sport, covers cricket. We also spoke to Doull about the rah-rah, blah-blah, yah-yah that is going on, of course, with England football coming home. Jimmy Anderson's last ever test. It's at Lords. He had 700 wickets before day's play started. He picked up 1. And Simon also, who was covering the second of the T20s with the White Ferns, who again got blasted by England, and he spoke to batting coach Craig McMillan. And for the first time, anyone connected with this failing side was honest enough to admit they aren't good enough. All of this you're about to hear with Simon.
The whole country is just in a better mood when the England football team are winning. Look, I'm caught up in it. It's sad, but I am caught up in it.
How can you not be? How can you not be? Look, and let's not forget, it was only days ago that they were throwing cups at Gareth Southgate, the England fans, after they played Denmark and scuffed a draw. So this is the fickleness of it.
It is, mate. I think the biggest criticism from all of the pundits over here, and you listen to them all. You listen to the Gary Nevilles, all of the pundits on telly, and they've all been saying, look, they haven't played great football, but he's made the changes in the last 2 games in particular. He's made the substitutes at the right time, which is all they've been calling for. Get these guys on the park a little bit earlier, see if they can make a difference, as he did in the World Cup, the Euros. He was making them too late to make a difference to the game. So he's brought them on early enough. And again, today it made the difference. You bring the subs on, and the 2 subs that he brought on had one scored and the other one provided the pass, and Cole Palmer. So, it's just, I think they're now a little bit happier.
I want to talk about England versus the West Indies, of course, at Lords. God, do we have to talk about the White Ferns, man? This is 5 losses in a row. Yes, it was a rain-delayed game, but we spoke about this last week, mate. I mean, I don't want to be mean, but this side just gets so much hype, so much publicity. I believe that they're very well resourced. They fly business class. They live in the nicest hotels. They get everything given to them. but they are just an average bunch of players, mostly. 2 or 3 good players. And so that's all I want. I just want the New Zealand sports media to just prick the balloon and just actually analyse this team for what they are, which is pretty average at the moment. That's it.
Yeah, and haven't got any better. What's coming in behind them, I don't think. I had a good chat to Craig McMillan, and Craig's always been a fairly straight shooter. I think he's doing everything he can in the short term. He hasn't been there long. And I said to him, what's coming through the system? What's in behind? He said, mate, I'll be honest with you, this is as good as we've got. And that's what we have to work with. So that's what we're trying to do. We are trying to make them better. They're training hard. They're just not getting better. The results are not there. England are so far ahead of them. It's not even funny. And, 89-90 in a 9-over game is gettable. I mean, it was a wet ball, wet outfield. Batting conditions were very, very good. And that was New Zealand's best chance to try and do something, to show something for the series, for the white ball series. And they couldn't do it. I mean, they crumbled again under a very, very good England side. But it was a pretty good opportunity in conditions that were very difficult for fielding and bowling. And, they should have done a lot better. They have not got better. The same players that we've been talking about for quite some time are getting out in the same fashion. Their skills have not improved whatsoever. And, I know we're 4th ranked in the world now, but I would say we're very lucky to be ahead of Pakistan and South Africa, the type of cricket we're playing. When the rankings came into play in 2018, they split. There used to be just all white ball cricket, and that's what the women's game was ranked on. When they came into play, we were 3 basis points only behind Australia in 2nd place in 2018 and 2020 cricket. We're now in 4th and 37 or something behind them, and only just ahead of Pakistan and South Africa. So that's how far we've fallen. And we've fallen since the so-called professionalism has come into the game, the money, the resources. They're getting so much more thrown at them, yet we are getting worse.
Jimmy Anderson, it was all about him. 700 wickets last Test match at Lords. He takes 1, but the debutant takes 7.
Yeah, terrific. Really good bowler. Very pleased for Gus Atkinson. He's been through a lot. He's had a fairly tough time in his life and his personal life as well. He's an incredibly talented bowler. Got what we term in the business, Marty, easy pace. As in, he makes it look easy. He's got a very smooth action, big, tall lad, a bit sort of Jofra Archer. He doesn't look like he's sending it down overly quickly, but has got good pace. And, bowled really nicely. West Indies just, they're a sporadic team in Test match cricket, maybe in white ball cricket as well, to be honest with you. They will put in the odd good performance, but their batting has let them down time and time again over the last 3 to 4 years. They just don't have the quality of batters that they have had in the past and in the history. And Test cricket is waning in the country as far as players that want to play it. So I didn't expect them to be that good in the series. I expected England to be the better side, but they were pretty poor on day one, the West Indies, and it really does look like with Harry Brook, the Yorkshire connection at the crease with Brook and Yorkshire. England could take it away from them in a hurry in the first 2 sessions tomorrow.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Vegas, baby, that big shiny thing called Vegas, Sin City. The playground that it is. Look, it is all hype and hoopla and everything else, but hey, I don't mind that. As long as you acknowledge that. Look, Rugby League is not going to take over the United States. Stop it, mate. But the Warriors are part of the extravaganza for next year. CEO Cameron George was on the show with us. Is congratulations the right word to say here?
Yeah, I think it's awesome for the people of New Zealand that follow the Warriors and want to go on a trip. And it's great for our brand and club to experience this. This is what it's all about, growing where you can and when you can. And that's the off-field stuff. But, yeah, I think it's going to be a good experience for the players on the field and go there and get the 2 points and get home. Looking forward to it.
So after what we saw this year, did you have to approach and say, yes, we'd like to be part of that, or did they come knocking on your door?
Well, they called for expressions of interest, Martin, and so following on from what we saw this year, and had a few discussions with the clubs initially that went there this year, and we spoke to the NRL. They called for interested parties to put their case forward, and we had a chat and talked about the opportunity, and that's how it evolved. And any number of clubs put their hand up, and we were selected. So that's really the process that took place this year.
You don't get to select the opponent or choose who the other clubs are or anything like that. Did that come as a genuine surprise to you that we're playing the Raiders?
Yeah, it did actually. No, in answer to your question, we don't get to choose, and you start to hear who the other clubs are in the final, the final 3 or 4 that have been considered. And I actually thought they might have thrown us up against Penrith, the James Fisher-Harris scenario. There's a bit of a marketing coup for a big hit in Vegas, but that's what I was thinking. But Canberra's Canberra, and they're a good footy team, and it'll be a good game over there as well.
I like the fact that one of the first things you just said to me is, let's go get the 2 points. Let's not forget what we're doing over there, right?
No, absolutely not. There's the off-field thing that, is what the experience is all about. But, look, I think it'll be good for the players to experience a whole new, way of doing things and so on. It's all part of their journey. But the focus is going there, playing well, getting the 2 points, coming back and having a week, back home before we look at round 3 and round 2. And that's, the discussion with Webby, the discussion with the players, it's all been that. And, at this point in time, we're just going to focus on this year, but that is the absolute goal, is to win the game of footy.
In terms of Vegas, you've been there, I've been there. We know what kind of place it is. It's probably a little too early to even think about, but there, do you have restrictions, or will you have to have restrictions on, okay, guys, before the game, obviously it's business. After the game, there's a little bit of lax. I mean, how do you kind of work all around that aspect of it?
Yeah, we've looked into detail around our schedule for the week, right to the point where one of the non-negotiables was that we're in Vegas the entire time for the 8 days. We didn't want to go to LA or San Fran or somewhere else and then have to relocate into Vegas and be hit with the bright lights. We're going there 8 days out from the game. We will have a program for the week that will allow a little bit of free time early to settle in. And then it's game face on, and as we get closer to the game, we're then required to do a lot of NRL marketing obligations, and then training and all that will be as what will be if we're at home at Mount Smart. It's game on, and in fact, we're all in the same hotel, so the requirements and restrictions and the expectations will get tighter as the week goes on towards the game. But being there for the whole week will help. Being stable and sort of getting those sort of bright lights out of your way early in the week, which is important to us.
Are the players allowed to enjoy a bit of Vegas afterwards, though?
Well, we're there, post the game, there for the Saturday night, then we fly out the Sunday American time. So, look, I'm sure Webby, if they perform well and get the 2 points, I'm sure he'll let them enjoy a beer, but we've got a task to complete before we get to that point.
In terms of our supporters flying in from here, I saw some stuff yesterday. You probably saw the same stuff. It was all from Fox, and it was all about hotels and that from that end. Does the NRL control all of that, or do you have to put together travel plans out of here for our fans?
Yeah, absolutely. We're really, really ambitious with those. We've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes. So, as it sits now, the NRL have an exclusive period of 14 days with their packages. Our packages will become available in the next 10 days. It will be promoted, and there'll be direct flight from New Zealand with a package. So, we're looking forward to promoting that. But as it stands now, the NRL are promoting packages, and they've got the exclusivity on that at the moment. For their flights and packages on offer now.
That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, Download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
The Platform.